Hey guys, I Saw Bear here, and today I'll be talking about the update 0.9 for the game Foxhole. This update brings a lot of new structures and the foundations and tests for World Conquest. Let's start off with the new structures. Firstly, bases. Bases have now been divided into three categories. These categories are port bases, garrison camps, and garrison bases. I'll go over each of these. So the port base is the newest one to the veteran players. These port bases are found on coastal maps, and they are faction-locked safe zones with essentially all the major buildings provided to you at this one location. They contain everything from vehicle factories to armories to refineries to tech centers, but I'll get to those tech centers in a little bit. The garrison camp class is essentially what the old FOBs used to be. There are three tiers to these garrison camps. Tier 1 is the encampment, Tier 2 is the field base, and Tier 3 is the forward operating base, the FOB. The garrison bases are what we know as the town halls. These also now have three tiers. Tier 1 is the garrison camp, Tier 2 is the garrison base, and Tier 3 is your classic town hall. So what's different about these structures? Well, the lower tiers have lower health and the higher tiers have higher health. I think that's pretty obvious. But more importantly, all of these buildings, all of them in each tier, now function as watchtowers, so they have some ability to detect enemies around them. And the way you go about upgrading them is a little bit different. So let's take this encampment here, for example. You'll notice, on the left side of the screen, there's a new counter marked Garrison Size. This is essentially a timer. The longer this encampment stays alive and stays up, the more this number will build up. Once this number is full, then you will actually be able to manually upgrade the building to the next tier. This is to prevent spamming tier 3 buildings the second they're built. And it also forces players to pick safe spots with good defenses to set up bases. Speaking of building tiers, there are some new defensive buildings. These are the light pillbox and the light gate. As the name would suggest, they are light versions of already existing structures in the game. They have less health, but also take less materials to build. And I'll discuss how you upgrade these later on when I get to the World Conquest section. There are some new garrison buildings in the form of garrison farmhouses with two variants, and garrison fishermen's huts also with two variants. These don't add a whole lot new to the game that we're not familiar with, but they do add some much needed variety to the world. And the manufacturing plants that we're familiar with have been replaced by the refinery. They are functionally identical, but the systems have been changed a little bit. So the refinery has a separate processing button for scrap, components, and sulfur. So now what you do is you load up, for example, your scrap stacks into the refinery inventory. Then, every time you hit the scrap button, as you see on the screen, it takes one stack of scrap and processes it into basic materials. So if I put in 5 stacks, I have to hit this 5 times, and then it will give you a time counter for how long it will take. Usually it's not that long, but it does slow it down from the breakneck pace that Logi used to be. But that also means you can be a little bit more efficient with your time, multitasking, and perhaps doing other things, or refining other materials as well. And lastly is the Technology Center. And here's where we start to break into World Conquest. One of the major differences in World Conquest is how we are going to upgrade our technology and acquire new weapons and vehicles to fight the war. The Technology Center takes care of a lot of this. So now, this tech center is where you want to bring tech parts to. When you activate the building, it displays a tech tree, which you can use tech parts to upgrade individual branches of the tree. Certain technologies require other technologies to be researched beforehand, and you can also divide up your tech parts to research multiple technologies at the same time. However, it's usually just more efficient to research one tech branch at a time. This technology center is also faction specific, and it's shared with your faction between all of the maps. So the last thing the tech center allows us to do is produce blueprints. Gone are the days of build kits, and in are the days of blueprints. Blueprints can be crafted at the tech centers. Once you craft a blueprint, so in this example I crafted a blueprint for high explosive grenades, you will then have to take this blueprint along with the required materials to build the item to that appropriate building. So in this case, the high explosive grenades would be created at the armory. Once you're at the crafting building, it will take up the blueprints and the materials, and after a waiting period, you will receive a crate with those items inside of it. So in this case, I spent 180 basic materials and 1 high explosive grenade blueprint to produce a set of 20 high explosive grenades contained within this box. Then you take this box to any of the traditional distribution centers, so in this case town halls or encampments, and you deliver them to the stockpile. At which point you can then withdraw them as actual high explosive grenades and use them in combat. The last thing about tech is that you still need to upgrade buildings using tech parts. So the vehicle factory will only be able to produce trucks until you upgrade it to tech level 2, and won't be able to produce tanks until you upgrade it to tech level 3. I realize this seems extra convoluted than before, but keep in mind, World Conquest is stringing together multiple maps, so you have several times more resources and more tech parts to work with. And that's the next big step in World Conquest, the ability to travel between maps. Yes, even from the map screen, when you press M to bring up your map, you can now press the N key, which will bring you out even further into the world map. From here, you can select the individual regions on the continent and check each one of them out. You won't be able to see pillboxes and vehicles, but you'll be able to see the town halls on each of the maps and which factions control which ones. This gives you an instant idea of where you're losing and where you're winning the war, and which areas need the most reinforcements. Additionally, as part of World Conquest, you can now chat between all the map regions in a World Conquest with a new chat selection option. Next, you will be able to physically travel your character and whatever vehicle they're driving and whatever equipment they're carrying between map regions. All you have to do is travel along one of the roads or rivers connecting the maps together, and after a few seconds, you'll be transported to the corresponding road or river in the adjacent map. On maps where the enemy controls all of the town halls, you will only be able to respawn in the wild if you are killed on that map. So going straight to the furthest enemy map is probably not the best of ideas. Still though, if you have a crazy flanking maneuver in mind, you could potentially travel from Endless Shore all the way to Farinac Coast, down to Westgate, and back up to hit the enemy in the rear at Upper Heartlands. It's crazy, but it's possible. In World Conquest, the victory conditions have been modified. So on each map, you will notice certain town halls have circles around them. These town halls are the victory points. In every map part of the World Conquest, your faction must capture all of these town halls and construct them to Tier 3 in order to claim victory. And one last note about enemy maps. If your faction is invading an enemy map for the first time after having crossed the border, you will be able to construct a construction vehicle anywhere on the map until a friendly town hall or encampment exists, at which point you will only be able to build them around that town hall or encampment. Whew, that was a lot. Alright, some game balances for this update include: Tempest Island has seen some layout changes. Sticky bombs can now be thrown, although only a short distance. Sticky bomb damage has been increased by 100%, making them way more effective against vehicles than they were before. And sticky bombs are now stackable up to stacks of 100. Scouting no longer gives XP, sorry Scout QMs. And storm rifles have had their accuracy improved. Some other UI changes include: the UI has been updated for improved clarity. You'll probably notice this the most with the stamina bar in the top. It's now got straight edges and it's much more clear. The notification system has been updated so that multiple notifications can exist at one time. You'll probably notice these as town halls fall under attack and get destroyed. And the server browsers no longer show player counts, but a volume quantifier instead, such as high, medium, or low. This is to prevent people from saying, oh, my faction's down 2-1 in strength, I guess I just won't play on the server, or anything like that. You will also not be able to see the enemy team on the player board anymore. You will only be able to see players on your side. There were some other major bug fixes for this update, but I'll save that for the patch notes down below. I gotta be honest, I probably shouldn't have done this at night, but there it is. That was this massive update. This is a huge step forward in Foxhole, introducing World Conquest, even as a trial for now. If you like what you saw in this video, like and subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest Foxhole updates. And as always, good luck, keep your heads down, and stay in your foxholes. I'm killing them, they're just coming. Bear out.
What just